Welcome to office hours, everyone. Glorious May 11th, at least here in Boston. The weather's beautiful. Hopefully it's nice where other folks are. And yeah, hi. Don't have a lot on the agenda this week, so announcements. I don't have anything. Anyone else?
Could talk about what we've been doing recently, but I think it's mainly just been the AWS PR that we merged, and all that discussion has already happened. How's the ARM packaging going? I know that people daily beg for that, and now they want the website improved.
I'll make an ARM agenda item, sure.
I just don't know if we have the original website authors on call.
It shouldn't be that.
Are they on staff anymore at Collide?
No, I think that the group that wants ARM is looking to contribute to. So I sort of threw up the idea of helping out with the website as a way for them to contribute. There's some prior art there where we made some refactors. So I think if someone just has a little bit of familiarity with React, they'll be able to get it done.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
Rewind slightly.
Yeah.
So we are now testing ARM. I believe the ARM test suite runs when something merges, we think. Does that sound right to people? And this gives us enough confidence that we are okay declaring ARM as stable. And the only reason we haven't done that more officially is because we haven't updated the code on the website to do so. So as soon as we update the download portions of the website, it's basically stable.
Yeah, I think so. What does stable mean? Stable means that you could grab packages from the merge to master and test if fixes did. You get nightlies, like something like that. If someone opens an issue, like we're committed to supporting it, right? It's like a loose commitment. XYZ features and working on ARM works on x86, so we want to fix that. And then the last, I think, bullet is just like the way people receive packages. We have to add parity there. So we're a little bit behind there just because it takes a bit of work. The hack is just like we publish the packages in that blog post. That seems to be working well for people. So we just have to sort of transition that into something that's easier. Though I don't think we have to do a lot of work there because naturally the work we're doing with code signing, which is another agenda item, is going to support ARM. It's just like a couple extra lines of code left to right. So not really worried about that.
Okay, so I think we mostly just need to update the website, which kind of is like a weird ball of React. And I keep trying to carve out some time to just see if I can work my way through it. Maybe pretty simple. I can't remember what things we pulled out of the AAR64 builds. Like, did we have to drop the CPU identifier? Does any of that really matter for this? I kind of don't think so. I'm inclined to say as we discover things, we'll fix them, or declare that just doesn't work on Arch64. I'm like, what do you do?
So I know that some companies prohibit their employees from contributing to open source. Apple's one of those companies, isn't it?
Apple's a little weird. My understanding is that Apple. We got a Slack message that Apple maybe could start contributing to Osquery a little while ago.
Oh, it was months ago, and that's why I'm curious if we make a very explicit ask for help, and would they be able to provide it? Because it seemed like they were willing to help, but I don't know if that can we interpret that as like code help? Can we ask them?
We have received some amount of coding help from some other parties. I don't really understand what we're currently blocked on, if anything. Like, I think we just have to figure out how to update the website, or someone else does. And other than that, like, tests pass. ARM isn't my daily driver.
Yeah.
As people report problems, we'll fix them or work around them. As Teddy said, what does stable mean anyhow?
Yeah, well, I guess I don't want to pass on an offer of help if we could point them to technical debt that, we know exists.
We could. There's one opportunity. I was just looking through the issues. 7053. Mike, I think you tagged recently. No, 26 days ago. It's one of those series of Apple_Silicon issues where the change in some of the tables is a little bit different, and so maybe folks can start there. If we just give them the system info table and say that it's not completely working, so could you fix this? And then we could see if someone fixes that, then there's appetite for helping out here.
I'm shaking my head because the M1 stuff is all very, very weird. The reason we see discrepancies on M1 is because Apple, when you're running in Rosetta, you just get bad data back, or you get fictitious data back for some classes of things. And I'm pretty sure that bug is that we're getting the fictitious Rosetta data back and not the underlying system data. The fix for that is that we should be building on M1.
Yeah, but making a fat binary, I guess.
A universal binary.
Can we do that without building on actual M1? I mean, can we build a fat binary from x86?
If it's Xcode, yes, but since we have all the libraries to support, it's not that simple. Especially Boost.
I would go so I could tell you that from an M1. So if we wanted to support M1 machines natively, which I think we do, but it's work that we haven't done, I'm pretty sure we'll have to update some of our dependencies and drop a couple more configuration files into the whole third-party hierarchy. I looked at it briefly, and then I kept sort of getting buried. None of that looked too hard. I think almost everything will support native builds there at this point. Our CI/CD stuff is going to be a little bit thornier. I don't know how easy it is to build an M1 binary on an x86 machine. It's easy to stitch them together. You can stitch the two into a universal binary from anywhere, but I don't know if you can build it. On an M1 machine, you can build x86 things, no problem, because you can just run the build under Rosetta.
Mm-hmm.
So for Launcher, for example, which has way fewer dependencies, but for Launcher, I build on M1, and I just build a native binary, and then I build one under Rosetta, and then I merge the two. I don't quite know what it'll look like for us, but there's an initial port before we even answer a question of how do we plumb it into CI/CD.
So
I also find it somewhat interesting that I don't think anyone is really clamoring for M1 support. Like, I think it would be good, but the pressure that I hear is for ARM64 support and Graviton to support.
I thought the ARM64 support was somehow behind the scenes a request for ARM on Mac. No? Okay.
I mean, I would love M1 support, but I have not heard external. We have like the occasional person who notices and cares, but we haven't really seen a lot of pressure for M1 support.
Hey, Stefano, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, just comment that it is possible, also as Charvel was saying, to obtain a fat binary on x86, especially with with CMake is just you have this option named CMake OSX architectures, and you put ARM64 column x86 64, and it produces a fat binary. The only thing is that I haven't tried, obviously, with Osquery yet, so there might be several compilation issues, especially on Boost, I believe. Yeah. So yes, it is possible, but specifically with Osquery, we might need to fix things. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, so backing up, like the folks who want ARM64 support, we don't have any current like getting started issues that they could work on to contribute code, which is okay because it represents that like we don't have any deficiencies other than not having the CPU ID table, which is fine because the concept doesn't match.
All we have to do is update the website and declare it done.
Sorry, I'm mentioning it, although I'm also asking if I should mention it. Well, basically, I recently was trying to update the toolchain and was also passing through again all the libraries, having them reconfigured on CentOS 6, etc. And doing so, I noticed that many of those do not have a specific configuration file for ARM64. Now, in those cases, I believe ARM is using the Linux configuration itself. Although I think that it might be still better to have one set of generated configuration files per platform. So this is something that would be nice to be done. I'm not saying it's easy again, because there's the whole okay, how I configure this thing, being sure that it doesn't take anything from the system, etc., etc. But yeah, just throwing it there. There is something to be done, I think, for ARM.
True. Yeah, I think we should. Yeah, I would feel bad proposing that as a way to contribute. Yeah.
Yeah, it's plumbing. I know it's it's not fun. It's plumbing. No. Yeah.
Cool. Next topic. Oh, heads up! I have 10 minutes and then I need to run.
Well,
Okay.
What topics do you want to introduce then before you run?
Yeah, anything you want to talk about?
Let me go through these things real quick. So uploads for the signing workflow. So for the context is there's a private repo where we're essentially just building a GitHub workflow that pulls the unsigned packages from tagged releases of Osquery and does some work to sign them, put them places. I made a test S3 bucket, which is Osquery-packages-test. I think I'm not sure the best way for us to get keying material to push up to the S3. Like the not best way would be like me going into my account and generating an AWS access token, put it as a shared secret for the repo inside the Osquery code sign, using that to publish. But I just want to say that there's a test S3 bucket up there. Let's use that as we start working through the workflow to push things up there. And once we are confident that that's working, we can flip it over to the Osquery packages. S3 bucket.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask you about that workflow because I thought we would be uploading the packages to GitHub Actions itself. It has a little artifacts or releases section where you can upload, but we still want to push the same package to S3 as well. Okay.
Yeah.
I suspect there's a lot that we haven't totally figured out yet.
Yeah.
So a little bit, this is going to be, let's try things and see where we go.
Yeah, a little bit of testing this is, hey, let me run the workflow, see what errors are thrown and fix it. And
Yeah.
Like, so here's a couple of things that I think I'm seeing, and I haven't dug into it as much as maybe y'all have. One of them is we sort of moving binaries around between workflows. We are currently doing with the workflow artifacts, and that seems to work, but it has some sort of limitations. The code's kind of gnarly, and they time out after 2 weeks, maybe. So there's sort of one question of whether we want to use a bucket as an intermediary, especially for merges to master. So like once you get out of a CI workflow, does that make any sense? Or once you get into a tag? And then there's like another question of how do we want to talk about publishing things, especially if you thought about publishing nightly things versus release things. And some of that probably requires buckets, but maybe also requires like, would we want to push things into the GitHub releases thing? So there's like open questions here, and I think we'll kind of just keep playing around and iterating. And
yeah, I think we should go for like the simplest workflow possible right now, and then we'll iterate. I did want to say, like, I think we should be all hands on deck for this and try to accomplish it before the next release. I have a couple hours of time every other night that I can dedicate to this, and that's going to be my focus, essentially translating what I have in like personal scripts that do the signing and uploading to S3 over to the workflow file. So I'll call out in Slack when there's a PR up, but just appreciate some eyes on it, and we code review it as fast as possible.
cool. Anything else you want to talk about while you're here, Teddy?
The one issue 7079 where there's performance issues from the write-ahead log for RocksDB. So that's interesting. I just started cracking open that problem. It seems like we're doing something wrong. One is we're configuring RocksDB to fsync the write-ahead log for every single change to the database. So it's a quick fix. We can just not force fsync. There's a minor window where a crash to the binary could lead to some corrupted data, but I think it's a good trade-off because there are some, if you're using the TLS logger plugin, then the buffered logs are being written to RocksDB, and so you're f-syncing every single time that you're writing a log there. So we can make that change. If that turns out not to be enough, and we need to rethink if we're going to continue to use the write-ahead log. The write-ahead log is as you write to the RocksDB in-memory database, it'll keep this transaction log on disk in case the process crashes. When you start up again, it can replay that translation log with a minimal data loss. So I would like to explore not taking away the write-ahead log, but using sort of like a period where we flush the write-ahead log to disk. Let's say every 10 seconds or 30 seconds or so on and so forth. We can figure out the right interval there. That means that we'd sort of set ourselves up for a bit of data loss within that period. But yeah.
If I think about this in the context of databases, this is usually a tunable parameter, right? Because some sites are going to be like, we have relatively low data write volume and high requirements for consistency, and other places are going to be like, we're writing 100 vents a second because we're ingesting the entire PowerShell events table. We can handle a 10-second loss. So I think we probably just have to expose it as a tuning parameter and then decide what our default is.
Yeah, so that's all I wanted to mention is just like, hey, I'm taking a look there. So if you see that PR and it looks scary, it's sort of a work in progress. I think we have quite a few knobs that we could turn in order to increase performance here. And I think we have at least 2 cases where people are running into this. And the symptom they're seeing is logs that get published from the event publisher have a timestamp, and then logs or events have a timestamp, and then logs have a timestamp of when they're logged. And so when they start out, they see these things very closely correlated. And over time, as Osquery runs, they drift, indicating that there's some latent process in between. And the suspect is that it's RocksDB.
I've also, I am not finding the issue, but I think that there might be another cause and possible improvement, which is that in the past it has been reported that the logger plugins do deletes of log lines inefficiently, in the sense that they they take quite some amount of logs every time for every single line, and each delete is sent individually to the database. I have had a quick look and I see there is a delete batch, though it seems like we don't always have contiguous range of indexes, but maybe we can have some algorithm to find batches of log lines we can delete. And maybe I would suppose that would also reduce the writes to the database and improve that side.
I was about to ask, do we ingest the log lines as a batch?
I don't know.
Don't know, yeah.
That's a good question. But this was reported, I think originally, as a comment by Packet Zero, and I recall he was saying that it would take several seconds, like up to minutes, to delete some, in some cases, in some situations, some amount of log lines from the database, and it wasn't that huge. So yeah.
Cool, yeah. So I'm going to just focus on tuning the write-ahead log. I'm trying to find a solution to propose that we can reason about. I think with that and the signing pipeline, that sort of encompasses all of my time for the next month. So I won't have time to look at the logger plugin and see if it's batching either the writes or the read or the deletes.
Oh yeah, I was just wondering. I wasn't proposing to do it right now.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Cool. Yeah, that's all I want to talk about.
Do you got any opinions about moving the installed directory?
Nothing strong. I think whatever we find is canonical is good. I just used Osquery to look at all the apps that I have on my machine, and I think quite a few of them go into /library application support. So I could imagine, I'll throw one more in there, /library application support, osquery.app.
I'm still going to advocate that we just start dropping into opt Osquery and we do it on all the POSIX platforms, Linux and Mac OS. It's not the worst thing. I'm also going to be slightly annoyed about it, but pragmatically, it seems the simplest thing.
What was the Neopath that Homebrew 1M1 is going to use?
/shop/homebrew.
Yeah. Anyhow, I think we should probably just move the install directory. Version 5 is going to change a bunch of stuff around the code signing, so it's sort of a breaking release. I feel like it's a reasonable time to just move the install directory.
Yeah, there's precedent too. Like I looked at all the command line tools that I use. Vagrant puts it binary into /op/vagrant, but then copies the binary over to user local bin. And I've seen people symlink binaries as well from /opt. But canonical macOS is /library/application support or whatever. But we guess POSIX /op is Homebrew is going to do it. Some other tools already use /opt. So
I don't have strong opinions, I guess. Yes, if I make a PR, I'll probably make it for opt, but if someone else beats me to that, I could put it somewhere else. I don't feel like we have to angst too much about it. I think any of these locations will probably use most users. I don't know. And anyone opposed to trying to change this? And I don't know. Maybe I'll do it. I don't know that anyone's volunteering either.
yeah, I've kind of been tangentially had a proof of concept about having the .app bundle in /opt as well for macOS. That way we have the provisioning profile and it's a seamless experience for end users. They're not killed by code signing, or if MDM admins want to push a PPPC profile out, they can do that as well. And it'll just work.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to tie that in with the Osquery code sign and packaging repos.
My recollection is I thought you concluded that the .app bundle was kind of just dropping everything into a path that ended in .app somewhere.
Yes, but you also need a package info file, which kind of is a manifest of what things there are. And there's a little bit of structure to it. Like the binary has to be in /contents macOS. The pre-install, post-install scripts have to be in the scripts folder, and the launch agent, launch daemon plist has to be in its particular folder. But that's about it.
Do you have to do those even if you're still distributing as a PKG?
I'll have to check on that. But the package info file is required. That is basically kind of like a bill of materials
right.
In the .pkg, like lsbomb, kind of generates it. So this is kind of similar for app bundles.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds, I don't know, when you all the things you just said sounds like you're starting to advocate we ship like a much more real .app as opposed to sort of the, we talked about it before. We were talking about just chucking the binary and the entitlement into a directory called .app and calling it good enough.
That wouldn't work. So we'll need .app/macOS contents. I don't remember off the top of my head.
It is.
Yeah. And the provisioning profile has to be outside that directory, but the binary has to be inside. And the package info manifest has to be outside that directory. So there's like a minimum structure to it. But yeah, we can figure out the other things later. The plist for launch D is also not location dependent. Like the current Osquery CTL just copies it to /library from /var Osquery. So
do we, I mean, Teddy's gone. Do we, does anyone use Osquery CTL? I'm confused by it, but people seem to use it.
I think people in the Mac admins, or at least have used it quite extensively. I'm not sure if they're still using it. I
mean,
can try and find out.
At some level, it's just like a wrapper around launch control, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a 5-line shell script, which basically checks if Osquery is running. If it's not running, then spin it up with correct arguments. And every time it spawns, it just copies the known good plist file to the required directory.
I guess it's easy enough to keep. It just feels weird somehow.
So I'm currently working on a PR for this, and this is also going to be the breaking 5.0 change.
Yeah, I'm kind of assuming it next release is 5.0, pending some critical security issue that someone raises. What I'm sort of just skimming over this, like code signing's probably the next big thing. Is there anything people want to talk about around code signing?
The reason I put that up is Teddy had asked a bunch of questions on how to test it and if we need S3 in the private repo. And I saw Teddy was here, so I think we'll still need to try all paths, but I think we are there. We're almost there. On macOS, at least. I'm not sure about other platforms. Notarization is a simple thing that needs to be updated whenever the secrets are there. And packaging is also pretty straightforward. So, but just moving things around and making sure things look okay and work on 10.14, 10.15, 10.16, whatever. So the upload to S3 can also be done as a second step, like the easiest thing to upload to GitHub artifacts, because it's like GitHub code. So
yeah, no, I agree. I don't think we have to block on it. It's kind of like we'll just do it all incrementally forward. I think Teddy is particularly interested in the S3 stuff because it gets the Linux stuff automated.
Yeah, and the Mac stuff automated too, because he's manually signing it, I think, and putting it in S3. Yeah.
The S3 transfer isn't a big deal. So this repo will do the code signing, and then we produce an artifact. And if we have to manually copy it, that's less work.
Okay.
But yeah, anything we automate is always good. I guess I should probably think about creating us like a service account somewhere to hand to GitHub for these buckets. I can do that. So, okay. That's about everything I feel like I've got. Do other people have things they want to talk about?
Just to mention with something, I mean, I'm not sure if anything will come out of it. I know that someone was looking into doing a port of Osquery to FreeBSD, or I should say restore in some capacity the FreeBSD support. I think I was thinking that we might need to have like a minimal list of things we would like to have before saying that a certain platform is officially supported, much like the ARM case. I mean, I think it will be short, but just something to say. Right now, I've mentioned that we really don't have a maintainer for it, so that's clearly the first problem. And something instead I've not mentioned, I forgot. Well, one of the problems was also having a CI with FreeBSD testing, because what the runner we have now cannot run FreeBSD. And actually, I think they were also trying to have it run on OpenBSD. So yeah, but That's
I
what's
think-
happening from the community, let's say.
Our general stance is that we will accept PRs that enable these kinds of building if they're generally in keeping with the project, right? So, if someone does something reasonable that enables it all to build on FreeBSD, that sounds cool. But I think CI is really the big blocker for us. And I think you're right about maybe some kind of maintainer too, because we run into some problem where like, we have to upgrade Boost and it doesn't pile on FreeBSD.
Yeah.
How do we fix that?
Yeah, my concern there is setting expectations for each platform. How official, how much comes from us, what is our support for that platform, etc. So yeah. Also, yeah, FreeBSD code has not been touched since the last 3.x. So yeah, a year and a half.
Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a simple answer because it doesn't feel like it's stuff that's within our easy knowledge base. So I don't know how to answer that. I feel like the Arch64 stuff has such widespread support now. That doesn't sound scary to me in the same way that like FreeBSD does.
Yeah, so probably it has less differences on the system-wise. So
Yeah, I feel like everything is going to be pretty well supported on, x86 and ARM at this point. Anyone have any other items for today? Maybe we call it for the week then.
Okay.
okay then.
Enjoy the rest of the Tuesday, everyone.
You too.
Thanks.
Good stuff.
Bye.
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 Bye.